Microsoft Agent Framework. Yes, another agentic framework. What is it? Why do we need it? And how easy is it to use? Let's find out. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kirk, and yes, we're going to look into Microsoft Agent Framework. Now, I just want to tell you up front that this first tutorial is going to be very basic, but I'm going to keep on getting deeper and deeper into Microsoft Agent Framework. So on that note, if you're not subscribed, you probably should, because there's going to be a lot more great tutorials coming up. Now, for this tutorial, as I said, it's going to be very basic. We've built RAGs before. We've looked at AI Agent in Azure AI Foundry. Now, I'm going to dive into some Python code, but I'm going to take it very slowly. We're going to first build a very easy agent that's really just an LLM request and response. Then I'm going to bring in one tool and then another tool that'll be a RAG. Now, before we jump right in, let's cover the basics so we can all understand what Microsoft Agent Framework is. What is Microsoft Agent Framework? Before we answer that question, we need to first look at two other frameworks. First, Semantic Kernel. Semantic Kernel is an open source SDK from Microsoft for building AI-powered applications. It helps developers embed reasoning and natural language capabilities into apps, aka AI as a function call. Next, AutoGen. AutoGen is an open source framework from Microsoft Research for building multi-agent systems, i.e. multiple LLM agents talking to each other and collaborating to solve problems. So there you have it, two AI frameworks, both from Microsoft. Semantic Kernel, which is more production ready, but single agent oriented, while AutoGen is powerful, but for multiple agent setups. This led to a lot of confusion. When should I use Semantic Kernel? And when should I use AutoGen? Enter Microsoft Agent Framework. Microsoft Agent Framework is an open source SDK at runtime from Microsoft for building, orchestrating, and deploying AI agents and multi-agent workflows. It supports both .NET and Python, and it unifies Semantic Kernel and AutoGen into a single framework. Let's review what an AI agent is. An AI agent is software that can perceive its environment, reason about it, and take actions toward achieving goals. First, an AI agent receives a task, aka perceives your requests. Then, the agent will do something called react, reason plus act. The LLM will think in a structured way to plan the next step. This is called reasoning. Agents have access to tools which allow the agent to act on its environment. Simple enough, right? Now, let's see how we can build an agentic RAG with Microsoft Agent Framework. Welcome back. Okay, let's start from the beginning. I am going to create a project, a Python project. I use UV as my Python package manager. So let's bring up a terminal here and let's go UV init agent framework demo. Okay, so we are in there. I'm using Cursor as my IDE. So let's open up that directory. Agent framework demo. There we go. Okay, so you see it created our main file. Now let's go into our terminal and clear this. First thing I do is I create my virtual environment. There, and let's activate it. Source.vn bin activate. There. Okay, for the first thing we need to do for Agent Framework is we need to bring in that library. So I'm going to do this command, uv add agent framework, and add pre. If you're just using pip install, same command, pip install agent framework. The pre there, that means it's pre-release in development. So it depends on when you're watching this. You might not need that. But for me, I need that. Okay, so that adds our library. And now we are ready to go in and make some changes. Okay, the only thing I did off screen here is I brought in my environment file here, which will have my environment variables. So let me just show you that. Let's go in there and do that. Right at the top, let's load our environment variables. There we go. And you can see, as I've done in other projects, I'm using Azure OpenAI, the endpoint, the API key, and the deployment. That's the model we're using. And I'll just show you in Azure AI Foundry, we have our endpoint here, and we have in our endpoints, I've deployed GPT-4o, which is what we will use. And I also have an embedding model here, which we'll use for the RAG part. So let's go in and do the basics first. So we have this, and let me just make a change. Let's bring in async IO. Let's bring in a couple things here. Taking it slow. And in our main, run it asynchronously. There. Okay. I just need to put the async keyword here as well. Okay. Now remember way back, the very first thing we did with exploring LMs is we just create a request and a response. Not very agentic at all, but let's just do the same thing here, just so you get an idea. In our main, I'm just going to create some code here, and let's run this. This is the very basics. We are creating our Azure OpenAI response client, and we are going to create an agent, and after that, we are going to run it. I'm giving it its system prompt here, giving it a name. I am just saying you are an upbeat assistant that writes beautiful poetry. And I'm just saying, I live in Canada, so I'll just say, write a poem about the Toronto Blue Jays. And of course, we need to bring in our imports here. So this is the Azure OpenAI response client. And now, as I've done it before, we can use our identity here. I'm just, oh yeah, you see I have to be logged in. So let's make sure I'm logged in here. I'm probably not. Give me a second. Okay, so I'm logged in, but as I've shown you, especially when I did the AI chatbot demos, using managed identity, key credentials, same thing goes here. I'm just going to be logged in and passing in the API key. So let's see if we can actually run this. Did I save it? Python main.py. And there we go. We have a poem about the Toronto Blue Jays. Blue feathers take flight, bat cracks, cheers pierce autumn skies, dreams soar with each run. Man, okay. This is October and the Jays are still in the playoffs. I guess I'll come back and see how they do. But that's it. So let's go to the next step. Okay, we just covered the very basics. Let's go in and create our first agent, which again, it's not going to be very agentic, but I want to show you the difference here. Let's actually just copy over all my main stuff here, because this is going to look pretty similar. Here we go. And the only thing I'm going to do different here is let's create our agent differently this time. Okay, let's take our agent actually outside of main here. Let's do this. And let's initialize it inside main here, or let's run it. Let's get our result. And the difference here is this is a chat client, not just a response client. So let's go ahead and initialize our import. Let's put our import there. And here we are. Now, all I've done is I've created an agent, Azure OpenAI chat client. Same thing for parameters, the endpoint, API key, and give it a system instruction. I think I'm missing a bracket here. Yep. Saying you are good at telling jokes, and giving the name is the Joker. Probably not the Joker from Batman, but you get the idea. And keep it on the baseball theme. Say, tell me a joke about the Los Angeles Dodgers. And let's see if we can run this. Sure. Here's a Dodgers joke for you. Why did the Los Angeles Dodgers bring a ladder to the game? Because they wanted to reach new heights in the standings. Ha, ha, ha. I don't know. That's a kind of a bad dad joke. But you get the idea. We've just created a chat agent. But of course, not really agentic. What's the one thing that's going to make this agentic? Adding a tool, at least one tool. So that'll be the next step. Okay, let's create our agent with tool file. If I can type. There we go. And let's bring in our agent code. There. Now, I've used other agentic frameworks, LangChain, AutoGen, Semantic Kernel, and they're all kind of similar in terms of how they have functions, how they use functions as tools. So all you do is you define a function here, and let's bring in our Python libraries, our pedantic library, and using annotations from type library. There we go. And what we've done here is we just created a function called getWeather. It takes in a location. What's an annotation, a string annotation. And what this says is it just gets the weather. Now, it's not going to a backend service. This is just to show you how to build it using the agent framework. But as I said, very similar to other agentic frameworks. You need this doc string, which is very important. It tells you what this tool will do. So the agent will be able to know what the tools can do. So let's go ahead and let's create our agent code here as well. Kind of similar to what we just did. Nothing really changes except for we're going to change the system prompt. And we're going to pass in the tool. So again, it's a chat model, or not chat model, a chat agent, a chat client. And we're creating that agent, passing in the tool so it knows it can use it. And let's just change our statement to something. Actually, tell me what the weather is in Los Angeles. Let's save that, and hopefully we can just run this. Python agent with tool.py. And the current weather in Los Angeles is cloudy with a high of 18. That's probably wrong. It's probably beautiful and sunny in LA, as it always is, but you get the idea. So the agent knows it has this tool. It can use this tool to call it and get the weather. Great. Now this is a very simple example. Let's do something a bit more interesting next. Okay, finally, we're going to do something a bit more interesting. And we're going to do what we've done many times before. We are going to create an agentic RAG. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a tool that will do RAG. We'll go to our Azure AI Search. Again, this is something we've done many times before. And offline, I've already set this up. So I have a AI Search instance here with an index here that has the embeddings for a search that we can do on this roster. This is the hockey team I play for. I'm not on it. I missed this night, but I just grabbed this just to give you an example. So again, I've done this before. If you look at some of my other tutorials, we do the exact same thing. So we go in here and just do a search. It's going to do a semantic search. And whoops, Kevin search. Let's do Kevin Lee. And should just get back some of the text in there because there is a player named Kevin Lee. And I say that because that's a common name. So we'll see if this actually works. Okay, so we have that set up. And I've also, offline, I've pulled in this file here, Search Index Manager. Again, from my other tutorials, the AI chat. This is code that I grabbed from Microsoft's repo for that AI chat repo that I did to build a chatbot and deploy it to Azure. So I just grabbed that code and I refactored it a bit so I can make it work. So we can just pass in to search here, just a string here instead of the whole thing. It just allows us to do a search against the database or against our AI search instance. So let's go ahead and do that. And I've stubbed this out because we're going to go in here and do this all from scratch. So again, I'm going to grab my agent with tool and paste this in. And let's bring in the other variables that we need. There we go. So again, our search endpoint, API key, and the index name. Great. Okay, next, actually, let's just bring in our search manager here, that code I just showed you. Search manager here, and let me just actually create this, because we're gonna need this in our tool. Again, this is not new code. This is code that we used in the AI chat, in the chatbot before. But okay, so you see here, we're creating the search manager, passing in the search endpoint. We gotta pass in this other stuff here too. So let me bring in some more code here. Again, this is all gonna be in my repo. So go ahead and grab this. We have the search manager. Actually, let's put this, why did I put this here? Let's put this stuff down below because the ordering is also important. So I got this. Bring this below my variables, of course. Okay, so we're good here, right? We have, so what we're doing is we have the search manager. We need to pass in our embeddings client because that we'll take that query string, and just like before in the RAG, when we're going to query against the database, we need to create that vector embedding from our query string so we can search against our RAG doing that. I'll show you that code in a second. Actually, it'll be in the search index manager. Well, let's come back to that in a sec. We have our key credentials and embedding dimensions, all variables that we have defined. And now let's create our actual tool. Again, I'm going to bring some of this code in and explain it. So let's replace that get weather. And actually, now that we're using the search manager, this looks a little bit different. So all we're doing, I'm just calling it get info, pretty generic function name, or tool name. And I'm just giving it a doc string of get information from the RAG. And all we're doing is passing a query string. And we're going to the search manager and we're searching against it. And the search manager, remember I told you the search? We just did that. We're just passing in a message. We're creating that embedding, the vector embedding of that query string. And then we're going against the AI search index, looking at our chunks, kind of like the same thing which I do here already, which I've showed you already, I mean, and getting chunks that are relevant to the query string and see if we can use that. And that's what our Agentic RAG here will use. Pretty straightforward when you think about it, just putting all the pieces together. Now let's create our actual agent again. So Yes. So this is going to be our Azure OpenAI chat client again. And let's paste this code in. Again, we are the system prompt here. You're a helpful assistant that retrieves info using tools to answer users' questions. And if you can't find information from the RAG, say, sorry, I don't know. So this will tell us if we're actually using the RAG or not. And okay, so I'm going to do a little bit. I'm going to do things a little different here in the main function here, the main function. Now, this is initialization code. I'm going to do a lot more tutorials on the agent framework, and I'll evolve this code. But obviously, this is just initialization code. I probably want to put this somewhere else. But for the purpose of our demo, this is just going to ensure our index is created, our search manager can be used, and the user prompt I'm going to send to the chat is, what number does Kevin Lee wear? I picked his name because it's pretty generic, so hopefully we can get an answer. Now, there's also some more setup I have to do. I have to bring in some other libraries. Let me just see if I can remember this. Azure AI Inference. Okay, so let's see if this actually works on my first try. I might be forgetting something, but let's try it. Python agent with reg tool.py. Okay, there was an error. Oh yeah, no module, so I forgot to import Azure Search. So yeah, I need that. Do I have all my import statements? Let's see. I probably forgot something here. Yes. Of course I did. The key credentials, async Azure OpenAI. Let's try this again. Oh yeah, so I still need to install this. Let's see if I can let's just try and wing this. Azure.search. Yes, okay. So that just added that. It was like a pip install. Remember, I'm using UV as my package manager. And try this again. Module not found, azure.search.documents. So I'll probably have to do UV add. There, okay, so a few more libraries here. Again, all this code in my repo. You can go ahead and grab this as well, or if you're following along, hopefully you're doing this a bit quicker than I am, not getting all these errors. Oh, and of course, I forgot the actual OpenAI. Let me just pause it and bring in my environment variables because I don't want to show you that on camera here. Let's do that. Actually, I was good. The only thing I was forgetting here was the variable initialization here in my Python code, because remember, this deployment here is GPT-4o. That is the model we're using for our agent to do the react, or reasoning and acting. That's what agents do. And this model here, the text embedding 3 small, is just what we're doing to create our vector embeddings. So let's give that a try. See if this works. It did. Kevin Lee's number is 13, as listed in the Toronto RAG roster. Great, because if I do it a different question, remember, as I said, tell me about the Toronto Blue Jays, and run this now. Sorry, I don't know. Oh, great. We've built this pretty quickly. And as I said, if you use other agentic frameworks using Microsoft Agent Framework, in terms of using tools, pretty straightforward, very similar to other frameworks. And I'm going to be going a lot deeper, so hopefully you follow along. But this is a great first introduction to Microsoft Agent Framework. Okay, that's it for this lesson on Microsoft Agent Framework, the basics. And as I said, it really was the basics. And we're going to be creating a lot more tutorials, so if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And until next time, I'll see you then.